He wanted to know if anyone could love him without the money, the name, or the spotlight. So millionaire single father Graham Westwood took his two sons on a blind date, dressed in thrift store jeans, no driver, no clues. Just a tired dad and two hungry kids. But when Sadie Quinn walked into the restaurant looking for someone else entirely, she sat at the wrong table. And Graham didn't stop her. What started as a mix-up turned into laughter, spilled drinks, and the first real conversation he'd had in years. Sadie didn't know who he was. She only saw a man doing his best and two boys who needed more than a nanny. But secrets like his never stay quiet for long. And when the truth came out, one wrong table might cost him the only thing that ever felt right. Before we dive into the story, comment below where you're watching from. Enjoy the story, everyone. Graham Westwood sat in the driver's seat of a borrowed Honda Civic, one elbow leaning against the rolled-down window, watching his sons argue in the back seat over a juice box. The air conditioning barely worked, and the fake pine-scented air freshener hanging from the rearview mirror wasn't fooling anyone. Liam was muttering about how Max always gets the red one, while Max, ever the wild card, was too busy licking his fingers to care. This wasn't the image anyone would expect from the CEO of Westwood Holdings. No one would guess that the man with a smudge of jelly on his sleeve and a beat-up Lego wedged under his seat was worth more than the GDP of several countries. But Graham hadn't come tonight to impress anyone. He came to disappear just for an evening. The idea was simple: meet the woman from the blind date app, pretend to be just a regular single dad, and see if she could like him without knowing who he was. No private driver. No tailored suit. Just Graham, Liam, Max, and a whole lot of chaos waiting to happen. He pulled into the small family-owned Italian place his assistant had suggested, one of those warm, flickering light restaurants that smelled like garlic and hope. The kind where no one asked for autographs because they had bills to pay and babies to bounce. "All right, team," he said, twisting in his seat, "we're on a mission. Operation Normal Guy. You ready?" Max gave a salute with a breadstick he'd swiped from the glove box snack stash. Liam just sighed. Inside, the hostess gave him a polite, if distracted, smile and pointed to a small table near the back. "You're early," she said, not checking his name. "Your guest will be seated shortly." "Perfect." The boys slid into their seats, Max already reaching for the crayon packet on the table while Liam scanned the menu like he was preparing to cross-examine it in court. Graham took a breath, adjusted his shirt collar, cheap cotton, slightly wrinkled, and waited. That's when she walked in. Sadie Quinn looked like someone who had learned to breathe through disappointment. Her expression was calm, maybe too calm, the kind that came after too many first dates that turned into last ones. She was scanning the room, slightly unsure, holding her phone in one hand and a tote bag in the other. She wasn't dressed up the way some people might for a blind date, just a faded denim jacket over a floral dress and worn white sneakers. And somehow she still looked like the most honest thing in the room. She saw him. He saw her. And neither said a word. She walked straight over, glancing at the boys, then back at Graham with an uncertain smile. "Sorry I'm late," she said, sliding into the seat opposite him. Graham opened his mouth to correct her, but didn't. Something about the way she sat, like she was bracing for impact, made him pause. Instead, he smiled. "No problem. We just got here." Max leaned forward. "Are you the macaroni girl?" Sadie blinked. "Am I what?" Liam kicked his brother under the table. "Dad said the lady coming might like macaroni." He said it to himself. "But we heard." Sadie laughed, a soft, real sound. "Then I guess I better order the macaroni." Graham felt something loosen in his chest. He hadn't planned this. Definitely hadn't planned to lie. But the way she interacted with the boys, the way she looked him in the eye without a flicker of recognition, it felt like breathing clean air for the first time in months. The server came and went. Bread arrived. Max spilled water and Sadie didn't flinch. She helped mop it up with a pile of napkins, joking about how he'd have a great career in indoor swimming pools. Liam asked her if she'd ever heard of velociraptors. She said no, but she was willing to learn. They talked. Graham kept waiting for her to realize her mistake. She didn't. Not when he mentioned working odd jobs or when he said he was between things. Not even when Liam said something about their other house with a really big pool and Graham distracted him with dessert talk. She just listened, smiled, asked questions that mattered, and every minute made it harder to tell her the truth. By the time dessert arrived, Sadie was wiping chocolate mousse off Max's nose with the sleeve of her own jacket, and Graham was wondering how in the world this had happened. Because this wasn't supposed to be real. And yet, it was the most real night he'd had in years. Sadie hadn't laughed that much in months. Maybe years. She didn't know what was funnier, Max trying to convince the waiter he was allowed to eat 6 breast sticks because I'm 6, or Liam solemnly explaining how tax brackets worked. She hadn't planned to stay. She hadn't even meant to sit down at that table. But when she saw the man with 2 fidgety boys and kind eyes, she just moved. It had to be him, right? Her date. He'd said he was a single dad, and the app didn't show full faces, just blurry photos and vague messages like hoping to meet someone real. And tonight, something about that tiny table with crayons and KS felt more real than anything in her filtered, carefully scrolled online world. She should have known it was a mistake. But she didn't find out until the next morning. Because the man she was supposed to meet, Kevin, the actual match from the app, messaged her just after breakfast with a passive-aggressive, "I waited 15 minutes. Not cool. No mention of kids. No macaroni. Just a selfie in a stiff suit she didn't recognize." Her heart sank. She sat on the edge of her bed, staring at her phone. Her roommate, Tess, peeked in holding a coffee. "Date recap?" Tess asked. Sadie blinked. "I don't think I went on it." What? I sat at the wrong table." Tess laughed. "Wait, you mean the guy with the cute kids wasn't Kevin?" "Nope. Total stranger. And I didn't realize until just now." Tess raised an eyebrow. "Okay, but was he weird?" "No." "Creepy?" "No." "Rude?" Sadie shook her head. "He was wonderful." And that was the problem. Because now she couldn't stop thinking about a man whose name she didn't even know. A man who told his kid to say thank you and split dessert 3 ways and laughed at her terrible imitation of A.T. Rex. She hadn't felt like a guest. She'd felt like belonging. Meanwhile, Graham sat in the office of Westwood Holdings in a suit he hadn't worn in weeks, his mind replaying every second of the night before. "You didn't tell her?" his assistant Laurel asked, setting a tablet on his desk. "No." "Graham." "I know." She paused. "But you want to see her again." He looked up. "Is that insane?" Laurel shrugged. "For you? Entirely. But I think you should do it anyway." By lunchtime, he had her full name. And by mid-afternoon, he was parked outside a library where her resume claimed she worked part-time in children's programming. Max had drawn a picture of a dinosaur holding hands with a girl in a flowery dress. Graham didn't know what to do with it, so he just held it in his lap like a peace offering. Sadie spotted him the moment she stepped outside, jeans again, sleeves rolled, hair windswept. He stood, a little awkward, but with that same warmth in his eyes. Not just confident. Present. "I wasn't your date," she said before he could speak. "No," he admitted. "You weren't. Why didn't you tell me?" "I meant to." A pause. "And then I didn't." She crossed her arms. "Why not?" "Because you were happy. And I haven't seen anyone genuinely happy around me, not for me, in a long time. I didn't want it to stop." Sadie searched his face. "So who are you really?" He took a breath. "Graham Westwood." She blinked. "The Graham Westwood?" He cringed. "I was hoping it wouldn't sound like that." "Like what?" "Like I'm a headline instead of a person." For a long beat, she didn't say anything, just looked at him, then at the picture Max had drawn, still clutched in his hands. "He really likes you," Graham said, quieter now. "So does Liam. I didn't expect that either." She stepped forward. took the picture, traced a finger along the messy crayon lines. I liked them too, she said. A lot. He exhaled like he hadn't realized he was holding his breath. Can I make it up to you? I don't know, Sadie said honestly, but I'd like to find out. Graham smiled. Dinner. No tricks. No disguises. No tuxedos either. No tuxedos, he agreed. But Max might insist on a cape. Her lips twitched. Fair. I like capes. And just like that, the space between them began to shrink. Dinner this time was different. No confusion. No kids' menus. No lies. Sadie arrived at Graham's house. Not the towering city penthouse the internet loved to gossip about, but the quieter one tucked into a neighborhood that still had cracked sidewalks and mailboxes with chipped paint. The kind of place where dads taught bike riding and Sunday mornings smelled like pancakes. Max answered the door wearing a superhero mask and a tie. I dressed up, he announced, pushing it sideways across his face with a proud grin. Because you're a girl and girls like when you try. Sadie laughed. That's very thoughtful. Liam said you wouldn't come back. Liam, standing behind him, turned red. I didn't say it like that. Graham stepped in before the boys started arguing. Come in, he said gently. They've been asking about you since noon. She stepped inside, taking in the cozy chaos. A half-built Lego tower on the coffee table. Shoes kicked off in a pile by the wall. A faint smell of cinnamon in the air. You bake? She asked, surprised. I reheat cinnamon rolls, he replied. Very badly. They ate something simple, grilled cheese, cut diagonally like Max insisted, and talked about everything and nothing. Sadie found herself relaxing more than she expected. Graham was different here, still composed, still sharp but gentler, like the edges softened around his sons, or maybe around her. After dinner, the boys pulled out a board game and insisted Sadie be on their team against Graham. She agreed, even as she warned them she wasn't great at anything with dice. Max climbed into her lap halfway through the game, unbothered by personal space or formality. Liam argued over rules like a future attorney. Graham watched it all, barely speaking, just smiling. It was the kind of night Sadie thought people made up. The kind that felt too safe, too warm, too close to something she didn't let herself believe in anymore. After the boys were asleep, Max drooling into a pillow on the couch and Liam curled up with a book, Graham walked her to the door. I meant it, he said softly. No tuxedos, no masks. She nodded. I know. I like when you're here. Her heart thudded. I like being here. A pause stretched between them. 1,000 questions sat unspoken, about the boys, about the past, about where this could go. But Sadie only asked one, what happened to their mom? Graham looked away. His jaw tensed, like he was pulling himself through something heavy. She got sick. It was fast. Unfair. Sadie didn't say, I'm sorry. She didn't try to fill the silence. She just stood there, still and close. That's why I started the app thing, he added. Not because I was ready, just trying. And the lie. He met her eyes. I wanted to see who'd choose me without knowing what came with me. She nodded slowly. And now I'm hoping I didn't ruin it. Sadie stepped back, then leaned up and kissed his cheek. Soft, simple, but charged. Not yet, she whispered. But don't test me again. He smiled. Fair. As she turned to leave, Graham stood at the threshold long after the door closed. He didn't know what to call the thing growing between them, but for the first time in years, It didn't feel like something he needed to protect himself from. It felt like something he wanted to protect, even if the world outside wasn't ready to let it stay quiet. Sadie woke to a dozen missed calls and texts she didn't understand. At first, she thought it was a mistake. A spam wave. Maybe someone tagged the wrong Sadie Quinn. But when she opened the first message, a screenshot from Instagram, her stomach dropped. It was a photo of her standing on Graham's front steps. Max was holding her hand. Liam was beside her, laughing at something off camera. Graham wasn't in the shot, but the caption didn't care. Westwood's mystery woman finally revealed? Single dad or strategic soft launch? Cinderella in sneakers? And worse, the comments. They picked apart her clothes, her face, her job. Someone had dug up a 2-year-old tweet she made about skipping rent for concert tickets. Another account found her LinkedIn. The posts were multiplying by the hour. She called Tess. "Sadie, are you okay?" "No," she whispered. "What is this?" "It's viral. You're trending." "I didn't want this." "I know." Sadie sat on the edge of her bathtub and stared at her own reflection, too stunned to cry. The quiet little world she'd built with bookshelves and coffee mugs and late-night ramen was being chewed up by strangers who knew nothing about her. She turned off her phone and didn't turn it back on. Meanwhile, Graham was in a board meeting when his security advisor slid a tablet across the table. No words, just a look. He saw it all. The photos. The headlines. Her name in bold across dozens of gossip feeds. They'd found her. And it was his fault. He stood. Walked out without a word. By the time he reached her building, the press had started to swarm. Nothing dangerous yet, just that hovering, vulture energy, cameras peeking from across the street. He made it to her door and knocked. No answer. "Sadie," he called softly, "it's me." Still nothing. He waited. Hoped. Knocked again. The door finally opened, just a crack. She looked tired. Eyes red. Hair pulled back like she'd stopped caring 2 hours ago. She didn't speak. "I didn't know it was coming," he said. She nodded barely. "I would have stopped it if I could." Sadie's voice was low and hollow. "I liked being nobody." He stepped closer. "You're not nobody. Not to me. But to them, I'm a joke. I'm a mystery woman with thrifted jeans and no pedigree. That's not who you are. It's who they see." Graham's jaw clenched. "I can fix this." "No," she said. "You can't. Because the more you try to fix it, the worse it gets. Then let me protect you." "I didn't ask for a bodyguard," she snapped, then softer, "I just wanted to be seen. For real." He looked at her, really looked. At the heartbreak behind her exhaustion. At the woman who never asked for a spotlight and got burned by it anyway. "Sadie, I need space," she said. "For me. For the boys. Before this becomes a circus." He nodded. Not because he wanted to, but because he knew he had no right to ask for anything else. "I'll make sure no one bothers you," he said. She closed the door without replying. Back inside, she sat on the floor and let the silence swallow her. Graham didn't sleep. He sat in the boys' shared room long after they drifted off, listening to the quiet breathing of the only 2 people who'd ever made his life make sense. The blinds were closed, but even through them he could see the distant flash of a camera across the street. He told his team to pull back. No legal threats. No statements. Let it fade. Let the internet get bored. But inside, he wasn't sure if what he'd broken could ever be repaired. 3 days passed. Then 4. No texts. No calls. Liam asked once, "Is Sadie mad at us?" Graham said no. But he wasn't sure the word was true. It was Max who brought her back. He'd been quiet all morning, unusually so, and Graham assumed it was just another low-energy day. But later, while picking up toys from under the couch, Graham found the note. Crayon. Folded carefully. Taped to the front window where the whole street could see it. 4 messy words in a child's uneven hand. "We miss you, Sadie." Graham stared at it for a long time. Then he grabbed his keys. Across town. Sadie was trying to read a book and failing miserably. Every word blurred. Every page felt too loud. She still hadn't turned her phone back on. The world could go on without her for a while. When the knock came, she expected Tess. But it wasn't Tess. It was Max, holding Liam's hand. Graham behind them, quiet. "Hi," Max said. "We didn't bring pancakes." "I'm sorry." Sadie blinked fast. "That's okay. You can still come out though," Liam added. She looked at Graham. He didn't speak right away. Just stepped forward, slower this time. No pressure. No walls. Just himself. "I'm not here to fix you," he said quietly. "Or protect you. Or say the perfect thing. I'm here because I miss the sound of your laugh. I miss how you talk to them like they matter. I miss who I am when you're around." Sadie swallowed. "I'm still scared. So am I. They'll say more things. About me. About us. I know. I'm not famous." "Good," he said. "I don't need someone famous. I need someone real." She looked down at Max, who was trying to sneakily wipe his nose on her scarf. Liam leaned in. "Can we come inside now?" She laughed, her voice cracking under the weight of everything she hadn't let herself feel. "Yeah," she said. "You can come in." And they did. The rest of the day wasn't a movie. There were no sudden kisses in the rain, no orchestral strings. Just four people in a small living room, playing cards, burning grilled cheese, and laughing at jokes no one else would understand. But it was real. When the boys finally fell asleep on her couch, Sadie leaned against Graham and let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "This is never going to be simple, is it?" she whispered. "No," he said. "But it's going to be ours." And somehow that was enough. No headlines. No wrong tables. Just the right people finally in the right place.